And we are live. Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of the Black Powder Podcast, the only podcast where two white guys and a black guy sit down every week and talk about gold, guns, and god-awful government. We like to bitch about things on here a lot of time, and we like to support local people. We like to tell real stories. I am joined always by my friend, my melanated brother in arms, Mr. Marcus Matthews. Marcus,
to the people.
How are you doing tonight, sir?
I am tippy-tappy. I am so excited about tonight. The pregame was awesome. I'm feeling the vibe. What about you, Eric? How you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm chilling, brother. I'm having a good time.
As always, we are brought to you by Firearms Radio Network. Sorry, we're a member of the Firearms Radio Network. We thank you for listening to us on the Firearms Radio Network. We're also proudly sponsored by 1776swag.com. Visit them and get all your patriotic apparel. Let them know that you are a rebel, and hey, it's only treason if you lose. Visit 1776swag.com. And then also Common Arms Trade Company. Sounds like it's spelled like it sounds. Your one-stop 2A shop. Sorry, your one-stop 2A shop. There we go. You can get all your guns and gears and everything from Common Arms Trade Company. Promo code Black Powder should work. If it doesn't, let us know. Message us, but I think we'll get 10% off any order over $100. I've paid the bills. I've done my part. And now I'm just going to relinquish it. We have a special guest here in the studio, Mr. Tub Rorabaugh. Welcome to the Black Powder Podcast. Take it away, sir. Tell us who you are and how you got here.
Well, first off, that was very impressive. Like that intro right there and how you handled that's far better than anything I've been around. I almost feel like you should just cut me off right now. Like, just he's not worthy of this. It's already going downhill from here.
Where's the mute?
You're right. I'll just sit here and nobody needs to hear me. It's not getting any better than this right here. This is where I peaked out. No, so anyway, I have a little bit of history, obviously, inside the Libertarian Party. So I've actually been a Libertarian for over 18 years now. But I was a typical Libertarian in the sense that I just complained and didn't do much of anything. And then we finally had an issue here locally with our church that got me fired up enough to say something has to be done. And as I started kind of going through that process, just trying to solve our issues, I started seeing all of the other stuff that was going on too. And that was kind of my motivation to run for city council here in town.
And the town we're talking about, for everyone listening at home, if you told your mom you wanted Florida, she would say, we have Florida at home, right? It's Jacksonville. That's the town we're talking about.
Yeah.
Also known for Thursday night football for roughly a decade. But no, anyway, it's actually a really cool town, right? Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah, it's stellar. So it's so good. Aaron got out as soon as he could. So
I forgot I didn't intro Eric. Eric Parker, of course, is joining us. I don't know why I do that. I seem to just I look at Marcus
Marcus kind of did it.
He takes it over, and then, like I said, but I wanted to give you another intro too, Eric. Sorry about that. Anyway, I'm stepping on people. Sorry, Tub. Keep going, brother.
I don't even know what I'm supposed to. So I ran for city council with Eric and with Tracy. And then actually simultaneously, I was able to run for lieutenant governor here in Florida also.
Wow.
But when I was able to, listen, here's the thing. So when the guy who was running, he was already filed. Like, I say this, if somebody asks you to run for that office, you say yes. I don't care what it is. You say yes. And I would have said anything to any of the Republicans and Democrats that I were running with. They know full well that if their party head had reached out to them and said, hey, will you run for this office? You're going to say yes. So I took full advantage of it. So it got me a little bit of experience kind of running, period. And then since then, I will tell you, I have done something that many libertarians don't do. Many libertarians, if you've noticed, they'll run for office and then they disappear.
What?
That's correct, yes.
Yes, they go and hide, and they no longer stay involved. Eric, you're still involved. You're good, brother. It's not you. You're good on this one. And so now I am the vice chair here of our affiliate here in Jacksonville, and I'm actually the vice chair of the Florida State Party also.
Nice, man. That's what's that like, Tub? What's it like being the vice chair of a state affiliate?
A very bad mistake. It's a very bad mistake. So here's what happens: is here's what you find out. And it's funny because everybody starts telling me after. Like, I guess there's this understanding around that says, hey, if you take a vice chair or vice whatever, you're the one doing the work. You have the party chair. They're there for show. And the one who's going to do some work.
That's how Marcus does this. See, he's the chair, and he's got me doing all the work as the
There
vice.
it is. So you,
Yeah.
you fully
Hey.
understand.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get reparations. That's all. You're gonna work with me for free.
That's how this is working. Yes.
That's,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's a horrible form of reparations, right? That's horrible.
I mean,
This is what we
you get you can
negotiated. I think
take.
we came up with
Oh,
this.
that
I think a
was
couple
funny.
Olive Garden gift cards. I think, and like I think we're good now.
I invited him to drive 7 hours to meet me in Texas, and he turned me down flat. So
I sure
I
did.
don't.
Yeah, I sure did.
I have a question for Tub.
Yes,
in
sir.
my research for you, you said libertarians are 40 years behind. What?
Okay.
Tell us what you mean by that. Yeah.
Okay, in all honesty, I could almost amend that to go almost 45 years behind it. Well, here's what I mean. So when we were out campaigning, all three of us even together, we spent all our time going around, and it's funny how many people don't even know that we exist.
Right.
And you understand, for a party that's been around for 52 years, we should not still be having to go around and tell people that we exist.
Marcus, you get a clap on that. Exactly. Yes.
And so that was part of my, there's like that's a
And
clap.
Throw
like
some in the
applause.
air.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to air this piece out. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, from my thinking, says we should have been doing this 40 years ago. 40 years ago, they should have been going around and really pushing, this is who we are, this is what we have going on. So we're having to do it now. And so that's what usually leads into my idea that I say that the problem is, in fact, the first time I ever spoke to a room of libertarians, in fact, remember Eric down at convention?
Yeah.
As soon as I got up there, now I was supposed to have 7 minutes. I think we had 7 minutes, right, Eric? And I took 18.
There you go.
And I'm a pastor. So, and I was last. And I was last. I'm like,
Verbose. Yeah.
oh, okay. So the first thing I said when I got up, the very first thing I said, listen, I said, libertarians have the greatest message and the worst messengers. and then I took the next, 18 minutes telling them how we're failing miserably about getting the word out. Now, bear in mind, I was supposed to be going up there saying, I'm running for office, give me your money. And I saw the opportunity to say, hey, I think we need to gut punch us a little bit and let's see what we can do. And so that's kind of been my main thing all of this time. It's messaging about who we are, what our plans are, stuff along those lines, kind of what sets us apart from the other parties. And we're 40 years too late. This should have already been done. We should not be walking around now trying to tell people that we exist.
Man, that is music to my ears to hear you say that, to hear a state chair, vice chair say that, because you feel like, at least I feel like, Tub, that I meet people in the party, like the party apparatchiks, the people that are moving the things around, and they just assume that because they've read Murray Rothbard and they've read Mises and they have all the things and all the knowledge that everybody knows what a libertarian is. And I tell them all the time, clearly people don't, because it seems like in the loudest ones that claim they do, especially on social media, have absolutely no idea what a libertarian is. Yeah.
And I tend to go around and I tell people, I will hold to this one forever. I say, listen, everybody's a libertarian once they find out what it is. Everybody's a libertarian until it's time to vote. Like, everybody will tell you, that's right, I get that, I understand what you're saying. Everybody loves the idea, but when the time comes, they still run up and do R&D.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's true. In some ways.
I'm taken aback because all of that was a lot of information that shouldn't be that hard for Americans to process. Because, you hear that common trope, I'm a libertarian, but I vote Republican or Democrat because libertarians can't win elections. And I just sit back and I don't know if they understand the idiocracy of that particular argument, but how do libertarians overcome that a libertarian can't get elected bullshit?
Can I interject?
Yes,
absolutely.
Please, Eric. Yes.
I think we need candidates with energy. You know what I mean?
Vermin Supreme energy.
But
No.
we need candidates that whenever they're in front of people, you don't feel like you're getting a lecture or a soapbox speech. You feel like you're having a real conversation.
Yeah.
Kind of like, you opened your front door and you invited them into your house. You're going to break bread and have a real conversation with them.
Yeah, I mean,
You know what I
so
mean?
Tub, because Tub being a pastor, I mean, you know about bringing people into the fold, into the flock, right?
You
And
would think.
I've grown up in the South too, and obviously a very evangelical area of the world. And I found that there's two kinds of pastors. There's the ones who kind of push everybody away because you got to be this way to be in here, and then there's the ones who meet people where they are. I have a feeling you're probably like number two, is what I'd have to think, right?
I would like to say I'm a healthy balance of the two,
Okay.
honestly. Because listen, let's get you. Because I always say that inside the church and stuff, I say, listen, God will find you where you are, and He'll bring you to where you need to be. And that's what we need to understand. We need to say that, yeah, I can get you where you are, but there's far more to do. So don't just be happy because I got to where I am right now. Now, how do we push and get to more?
Yeah.
And so what you were asking there, Marcus, like this is what I've been saying, especially for like national elections, because you know how a lot of times libertarians catch heat about why we're running for president.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, now we all know the explanation of it, especially down ballot type stuff. Ballot access is huge by having us run nationally. And so, but here's what I tell people. I say, listen, this is a great opportunity, especially the one that we have coming up. It's a great opportunity that if we can get two solid messengers, and when I say that, I'm not just talking about somebody who can present the word properly. I'm talking about somebody that when they see them, they are not automatically turned off by them.
Right.
Which many times that's our issue. Like we have people who have this great presence of what liberty is, but they're not the people you want to stand around and talk to for any length of time. And so my thinking says if we can get two solid messengers during this time right here. Now, listen, I don't hide behind, I don't lie about anything. I say, listen, we're not winning the White House. It's not happening. But if we can be effective at the national level, start getting the word out where they start looking at libertarians and go, you know what? Those guys aren't near as crazy as I thought they were.
Thank you.
And then now, so here's what happens. So now when they go, hey, I've heard of these libertarians, they're not so bad. So now when it starts coming down ballot and starts hitting locally, they can go, wait a minute. I've heard of these libertarians. They're not so bad. Who do I have running locally?
That's right.
And then once it's local, the good thing about that then is now you can go talk to them. You can find them at a forum or something somewhere and really have that conversation with them. So it's so long as we don't mess this up as libertarians, we have a great opportunity. Now, very cautious the first part of that.
Absolutely.
Well,
I mean, and Tub, that was really my goal when I ran in 2022 was to try to legitimize liberty. I mean, I felt like, that it often gets the comic book treatment, right? And not to like diss on Vermin Supreme, great guy. But I mean, when you're known for a boot on your head, it doesn't really make you seem serious, right?
Yep.
So we had to be taken seriously.
I just want to interject one point real quick because this is important for the American people to understand. This is the most critical election of our lifetimes. all of us as Americans, this is the most critical election. But to Tubbs' point, and I've been saying this a lot, this is the most grand and golden opportunity for libertarians to step up on the stage because we have two octogenarian. How do you say
Octogenarian?
Yeah. People want to talk about Biden's age. Trump and Biden were in high school at the same time. So let's
older, ain't he? I don't know.
No,
Biden's older.
Okay.
Yeah. So I remember
Yeah,
saying to myself, this is going to, in 2020, that was the last year of the boomer elections where we had legitimate boomers with the World War II mentality running for election. So, yeah, I totally botched that one. So to Tubbs' point, I think whoever the two voices are, the two candidates that go forward in the Libertarian Party, they have a lot on their shoulders to deal with because they're going to be the standard bearers as the Libertarian Party introduces itself in 2024.
Good point, Marcus. That's a good point.
So, whenever you say two people, do you mean our president and our vice presidential candidate? Is that what you mean?
Correct.
So, Tub, it seems like you have a trend of taking the co-pilot seat, and other than city council, a lot of your positions, chair, vice chair, local, state, and lieutenant governor, Is there a trend you're trying to say here? Is
I mean, is this the announcement
you've left out so far in this conversation?
So I have what I refer to as my willingness to run for VP.
Okay.
Okay. And here's why I say my willingness is because here's what I'm not doing. I'm not running across the country. I'm not raising money because I don't believe that's a good use of resources. I don't think you run for a VP spot and get everybody to give you money when there's probably far better things we could be using that money for than running around the country. So I've kind of put myself out there. So I have this willingness. And I've had some conversations with people. I had a number of conversations before I decided it. And my thing is, listen, we'll go to convention. And we'll go to convention if some poor schmo up there in DC says, "Hey, let's try Tub." Okay, I'm open for it. And the thing is, but I look at it, I didn't take it lightly. We took this seriously. We had a number of conversations, plenty of conversations with my wife, like, "Hey, do we want to get into this?"
Yeah.
And because there's a lot that's entailed, especially if you get the nomination. Like, the work starts. And in all honesty, like, I want to make sure that it's going to sound odd the way I say this, but the people who are running for the presidential spot now had better understand it's only going to get worse after.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so I don't want them to be bragging on how much they're traveling now. They're going to be like, "Oh, I got it. Now I get it." No, now the work starts.
Yeah.
And so I fully understand that. So that's part of the reason also why I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to go crazy running around the country right now, not for a VP spot. I said, because I want to be able to, that if something crazy happens and I make it, I want to be able to say, okay, I'm ready now. I'm ready to go hit the work. I've been sitting all this time just sitting around the house, letting you guys talk to me for a little while.
Let me ask you a question. Is it also whoever the actual nominee is? Does that factor into your decision of whether you want to be with that? Or, I mean, I think they're all good in their own right? Like, I would hate to be a delegate this year. It's going to be very difficult. But does that make a difference to you? Basically, that's the question.
So here's the thing: a very smart man. Okay, well, that's what we'll call him. A very smart man in South Carolina. When we had the conversations about this, and he was pretty clear. He says, "Listen," he goes, "if there's anybody you're not sure about," he goes, "don't even say anything. Like, don't even worry about it because you don't have the nomination. There's no reason to alienate things." He goes, "Just kind of." But in all honesty, there's something about each of them where I say yes, and there's something about each of them where I go, no, I don't think I want to. But so here's the other day, I had a decent conversation with one of the presidential candidates. And I explained to him, because listen, I'm not always good on self-promotion. Like, I'm just not. It's not my thing. And so, but here's the beauty of it. And here's what I was telling him, because we were talking. I said, here's the beauty of VP. VP1, it gives me the opportunity to go share the word of liberty. Okay, listen, I'm just going to go out there. I'm going to talk about how we need libertarians, period. The other thing is, now as VP, it's not about me. And I think that's going to be some struggle if somebody from that's running as presidential candidate tries to fall back into VP spot. Because you have to understand, as VP, it's not your race. It's the leader's race. It's the president's race. And inside of that, you are there to support their thinking.
And so you're saying that kind of makes you comfortable, though, because like you said, you're not really comfortable with self-promotion, and you feel like you would be more comfortable like in other promotion. Like, hey, I'm just the Robin to the Batman kind of sort of thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes.
That's true. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Robin, you suck, because I never put it in that reference before. So now you suck. So now I don't want to do the show. I'm out.
There's other cool sidekicks, I'm sure, out there.
Please, give me a better one.
Robin was all right. I'm not going to have any Robin bashing on the Black Bottle podcast.
It just depends on which Robin you're talking about, right? I mean, really, honestly.
That is true. That is true.
Solo. You know what I mean? They were both rebels. So there you go. You're Chewie.
Chewbacca was more superior than Han Solo in every aspect of the game except being a cheat and a gambler. Chewbacca was 800 years old.
He was too loyal. See,
that's accurate for Tub.
You know, it was an odd.
I don't really see Tub as Chewbacca though. So
the Chewie. No,
way too groomed.
He doesn't even have a beard.
I feel like exactly. I feel like this conversation got away from me very quickly.
It does that. Light powder podcast.
By the time we were done, I don't want to run because I don't want to be Chewbacca or Robin.
What about Kato to the Green Hornet? You know, as my guy Kenneth said. You know.
So that's better. I'm not a comic book guy. I'm like I'm just old. And I'm like,
what about all right?
Okay.
the Apostle Paul to Jesus.
Whoa, that's legit right there.
Boom.
Like that
There
was
you go.
legit.
You're welcome.
Michael, you couldn't come up with that one first?
No,
that
not
couldn't
really.
have been your reference.
No,
you couldn't have brought me on board from the start. If you said that from the
Robin
start,
was my reference. Yeah,
but
that was my reference.
I did have a theological question for Pastor Michael. Can you pronounce his last name for me? Okay, Pastor Rorabaugh.
Or just
Pastor Tub.
Just Pastor Tub.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I knew him as Tub for Jacks. That's how I met him, was Tub for Jacks. And
right.
I thought it was great. I was like, that's cool. All right. There you go.
I have a connection to the South. My parents are from Pritchard, Alabama, down near Mobile.
Yeah.
I grew up in the church the old-fashioned way. I was yelled at to get up in the morning on Sunday and put on your church clothes and all that. Raised in the Baptist church. I knew I was going to hell by 3 years old. You know.
Okay. Effective.
But I like to think of God as a ultimately loving being, higher than us, obviously. And I always wonder, do you think God has a stat book for us on all the things we did, like how many miles we walked, or you know, all of that? And because a lot of guys are stats guys, and I'm a stat guy, and I'm interested.
You want to know like what your like your divine baseball card says on the back of it?
Yeah. That's what I'm
pretty sure he's got that. Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
What do you think? Yeah.
Now I don't know if it's going to phrase it quite like that. Like, hey, here's your divine baseball card. And your stats are not impressive. Your later career unimpressive. And so, but yes, because it does say that we will be held accountable, even to the point of every careless word that we say.
Yeah.
That seems like it's keeping track. So yes, I will go with yes. Now listen. Telling a 3-year-old you're going to hell, that's pretty harsh. Like, Well,
that was the Baptist church back then. It was hell and brimstone. And, I'm thinking at this point, I don't have a baseball card. I have at least a softback 150 to 200 page book.
Everyone.
I thought you were just going to go, I don't have a baseball card. I just have a record. And so,
Marcus, all fall short of the glory.
Of the glory of God. Indeed.
Yes, we all fall short.
Yeah.
I
was raised a very good Catholic. So, I mean.
Okay, now, I wasn't raised in the church at all.
Okay.
I'm originally from Connecticut. There's no Jesus in Connecticut. So I had to move down here to Florida. Okay. Now I moved down here. I was grown. I was almost 26 years old. So I moved down here. Still didn't care for almost 10 years of it. I didn't care. Like I didn't care. I got remarried down here to a good Christian woman who tolerated my junk. And it was inside of that. So I didn't even start going to church until I was 33 years old.
Ooh.
So I had all that. Whoa, I did a lot of stuff back then.
Yeah.
And so I used to kind of have to remind people now, listen, in all honesty, my wife likes that, especially with me as a pastor, because I tend not to be that judgmental one. Mm-hmm. I tend not to be that one. And I look at things, I go, now listen, Eric will tell you, I walk a pretty strict Christian line. And I expect a lot of other Christians, honestly. Now, I give libertarians a lot of slack because, hey, they're libertarians, but you're not a Christian. If you're a Christian, things change. But it's inside of that where I go, you know what? It doesn't have to always look the way that we were taught in the church, or y'all were taught in the church a long time ago. Things can be different. We can do things differently. Like when you said initially, I got up and I put my church clothes on. Okay, what I'm wearing right now is overdressed for me for church.
Really? Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Like it's Florida, it's hot. And so,
we wear tank tops and swim trunks when we go to service. Yeah.
Okay. Now, actually, I can't go that far, but because nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. Now, but I will tell you, we have people in the church who are just like it. We have people serving communion, and like they're fixing it when they're done with church. They're going to the beach.
There you go.
Because we have far bigger things to worry about than what you're wearing. We have far bigger things to worry about than if you're smoking or if you go and have a beer or some wine or whatever. Far bigger things.
Come as you are.
And then God will get you where you need to be. Look at that. We just came back full circle right there. This was when I should sign off. I should just click that button. I'm a George Costanza right now. I'm getting out right now. I'm leaving.
There you go, man. There you go.
All right, Tub. So That kind of reminds me of your Sunday morning service you had at convention. Do you want to get into that now, or do you want to go? Would it be better if we save that for last? And can we ask you, how did the Libertarian Party of Florida convention go this last weekend?
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't get there.
I saw the debate. The debate was fire. It was awesome. Y'all had the best debate so far of the year, hands down, unequivocally.
Now, but listen, yes, we did, but we can take zero credit for that. That was all Mr. Epstein. That was all his format. That was all his idea. It was so, okay. Now you want a little bit of truth, because all the stuff I'm going to say to you is a lie. So, if you want a little truth, now I'm the guy who didn't know who Epstein was. I didn't know who it was.
Wait.
And
Good for you.
Which Epstein are we talking about?
Gene.
No.
Okay.
Gene Epstein.
Okay.
Hold on. I don't know the other Epstein either. I don't know the other one either. All right.
And I might be in the book too, but I didn't know.
No.
I thought I was getting a timeshare thing. I didn't know what was going on.
I knew none of the other Epstein. None of
You
them.
know one Epstein. You know one.
So I didn't know who he was, and we were on a call for the convention committee.
All right.
And I'm listening in, and somebody mentioned they're having him come down. And I'm like, I don't know who. And I said, I was like, I don't even know who that is, guys. And I was like, everybody else seemed to know. I was the only idiot who didn't know who he was. So as that's happening, they're sending me emails saying, hey, go look, here's his profile. So I'm like, okay, I started looking at it. And actually, I was the one who picked him up at the airport. I had a good chance to talk to him. What a great guy. Oh, my goodness, what a great guy. So
Nobody has ever said that in life. Epstein was a great guy, but go ahead.
Gene.
This is the
But
difference.
all right, Gene Epstein is a great guy. and I guess, you know what? It's a shame, but we better make that distinction.
We're going to cut off Gene and just soundbite it as Epstein was a great guy. And that's
Epstein was a great guy. That's how this will be edited.
Yeah, don't
Mellors out against Gene.
Hey, you need to pay us.
Hang on.
You need to pay us so we don't cut that clip
So
out.
that doesn't happen. But hold on. If you do that, I have a future in some of the other parties. So have at it.
That's right. You probably would.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what I'm saying.
It might be a
Some of those guys, my money would come in, my support would come in. Like, hey, come on, you're one of us now. Come on in.
Yeah. So for those who haven't
Back to
the debate,
So-
it was awesome. I mean,
It
tell us
was.
about it.
So that was all him. That was honestly all him, and I love the way that played out. So that part most definitely went very well. Now, like I said, our attendance, as we're kind of seeing, was pretty low overall. Now, it could be a matter of, I don't know how well you know the state down here, but Jacksonville's very north. We're basically South Georgia.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I think that factored in, honestly. I think it's a long drive for all of it, and some people are just like, you know what? It's not Central Florida. It's too far for me. I'm not going to go.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, I think you can see a number of the parties around the state are all having issues in one way or another.
Yeah.
And so, as far as that goes, but it's funny because we were sitting there on Sunday morning, the last part of voting and stuff like that, and I was telling them that. I said, you know what? It actually went pretty well. We had a couple of our main speakers didn't show up. One we found out a few days beforehand. The other one, I guess they found out like the day of.
Wow.
She was supposed to be there, and just something happened or whatever, and didn't show up. But other than that, it went pretty well. My wife was somewhat engaged, so that tells you something. Because my wife's not libertarian, not at all. And I'm having to deal with her because she likes Lars. Like and I tell people, I say, listen, I says, there's the start of it. There's something we better start factoring in. Because it's somebody who's a libertarian who is winning over somebody who's not a libertarian.
100%. Yep. 100%.
And so we better keep that in mind. Because if we are looking for a presidential candidate who's just going to rally the base, shut it down.
That's right.
Shut it down. Because
Yes.
we peak. We peak if that's our goal. Just shut it down. Don't worry about it. We have to get outside of our party. Oh, so go ahead, Eric. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Tub, in the backstage in the green room before we went live, we were kind of talking about how you've said to me, and then you've said it to these guys in the past, you did not like debates. Now, explain why you felt that way and how Libertarian Party of Florida and Gene Epstein changed your mind on that.
Okay, so my idea about debates, and how do I say this without coming across like I'm just trying to get back on the show again? Okay, let me try it this way.
All right.
Michael, you did a bit of a clinic when you did yours. Okay, I want to make that very clear.
Talking about
Yeah,
Michael White.
100%.
Yes, like you did a clinic there, and that's not always the way these things come off. But also bear in mind, as libertarians, we usually don't get that opportunity anyway in the first place. Okay, so for me, what happens in debates is it tends to be a snark fest. I'm going to say this about you, so that you can say this about them. And the perfect example of that, so many times the takeaways from debates are the one-liners.
Sure.
It's not because somebody came out with this great plan of policy or anything along those lines.
Tub, that's human nature. People remember what they feel, and and they tend to identify it with very short things. It's just the truth. Yeah,
it is. It's like our attention span, that of goldfish, is horrible.
Well, it's why, for instance, why Trump is so good with his base. It's not like Trump comes out and has this most magnanimously deep philosophical message. He just has the little sound bites that get people going, and that's why he's very effective. Yeah,
the nicknames, the stuff along those lines, to lock her up. Now, I will tell you, I says, it's so funny because I remember when Trump was debating Hillary. Yes. And she made the comment, and he's like, well, that's because they're all her donors. And then the other one was, you're glad that I'm not in charge right now because I'd have you in prison. Mm-hmm. We remember those things. Now, I would ask anybody, tell me his policies from that debate.
Right.
And it's nothing. It's nothing. And so what tends to happen, that tends to be debates. Now, here's what happens. In a debate, if I go in with a debate, we tend to go both in on the defensive. We tend to walk in, I got to get him, I got to stick him, I got to stick it here, I got to stick it here. In fact, we've seen people to prepare for a debate, they have something memorized or written down.
Sure.
And they just want to say this. And so a lot of times it's not even a conversation, it's just I got to say what I got to say. Even if it doesn't apply, I got to say these words.
Yeah. I'm sorry. It's the one-liners, and it's no longer about the best ideas. But because ideas don't bring people into the fold.
This debate was really, to me, interesting because first off, it was I guess sportsman-like adversarial. Like it was tell us why each candidate's different than each candidate, and they were directed to do so. But it kind of became, in my opinion, this is what I saw it become, is it kind of became a argument of two ideas. One being this bifurcation of one being sort of incrementalist minarchism. Okay. And then one being very bold, philosophically bound, I'm getting it all or I'm getting nothing. And that was kind of what it kind of came into. And then you saw the candidates sort of separate into those camps. And I thought that was an interest. I mean, we've seen drops of that in previous debates, but this debate really kind of did that. I mean, that's what I thought was so interesting about it.
So for you, it had a permanent effect. Like you were able to kind of like, hey, this showed a separation of. And so as you start moving forward, okay.
And I say that because look, I talk to all these people. I know all of them, at least on a rudimentary basis. And so I kind of know where they sit. I'm saying that if I took a step back and I wasn't Michael White, the libertarian, I was just a guy that walked in off the street and I had just sat down and didn't know anything. 15 to 20 minutes in, I kind of would have picked up on this vibe. Like, okay, there's really kind of there's an agreement, but there's an argument about how to get that agreement. And I thought it was kind of neat to see that happen.
And like what you said right there, it's that minarchist kind of, that's my world. That honestly, that's where I camp out at.
Me too.
I'm like, hey, there's a lot of things that have to get done, but I believe in small victories. Yep. I okay. So the other day on Facebook, I put a thing out. I says, hey, why don't we start with a one-time vehicle registration?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, right.
Okay, so I pay it once, and as long as I own the vehicle, I'm done. And here's what happens, libertarians.
Yep, here we go. Tell them. I know what you're saying.
So they get on there. Why have one at all? And they go through all the things. I go, you're right. I completely agree with you. But if we could take a small win on the way to the end goal, we might accomplish some things. Because if you start going and talking about, I'm going to burn down the system.
Well, hold on.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I want to insert something for the listener here. A certain gentleman named Javier Milei just won Argentina. Javier Milei.
We're not Argentina.
Javier Milei is very philosophically bound, but he also apparently is very aware of the fact that he has to work within the constraints of a system. This is a quote from him. Many anarcho-capitalists criticize without contemplating the restrictions. And then there are more restrictions, which you realize when you are inside, which are the restrictions of politics. Some you can accept, others you cannot, and still others you accept in the short term, but with the intention of lifting them in the long term. I have a vision of the world that marks where I want to go, but the world is what it is. So I have to act with these restrictions and try to do what most resembles my ideal world. Some people don't understand that, and well, that's part of life. Javier Milei.
And you said
y'all have a blessed night now.
At all.
What's that?
Like,
I would say
this point,
that's the best quote I heard from him thus far.
Yeah,
that might be the best explanation of incrementalism for liberty that I've ever heard.
I posted that on Twitter, and a gentleman, Patrick Kirby, I think some of y'all know him, he said, those who refuse incremental steps in the right direction, complaining that they aren't big enough, too often only end up moving backwards.
backwards. They get nothing. It's like you can get a small win or staying nothing and get nothing.
That's right.
And I go, you know what? I'll take a small win.
That's right.
I'll take a small win.
I take singles all day. Yeah.
Exactly. Because go ahead.
Is Voltaire a libertarian? Did I say his name right? The one that said, "Don't let the perfect get in the."
Don't let perfection be the enemy of good.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's just that's just practical. I mean, I think that just makes sense. Yeah.
But even the three of us, when we were running for city council here in town, we knew that ultimately our goal was let's advance liberty.
That's right.
And so that if nothing else, the group who comes behind us now to run for city council, they don't have to do some of the explaining that we did.
They're one.
That's a win.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's a win. And so the problem is there's too many inside of libertarianism who don't want that. We're going to burn the system down, and we have no plan for it after. Let's just see what happens. Okay, now here's what happens. Now we can look at that and go, oh yeah, I wouldn't mind getting rid of some of those, and we're okay. We understand it. Take my wife.
Mm-hmm.
You take my wife, okay? You take a Southern white woman, Christian white woman, and say we're going to burn down the system. You're done. We're not listening to another word.
You lost them. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, you've lost them.
But if you say, hey, I want to make it so you only pay a vehicle registration one time. And then they go, whoa, that's a good idea. And then once you get there, you go, hey, wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have this at all?
We don't really need it after all.
Right.
We found a way to do this.
They go, wait a minute, you're right. I paid it once and my roads didn't get any worse than they already were.
People have to understand the way that we got to this level of tyranny was incrementally. Okay, the 16th Amendment, it's just going to be a little tax, just temporary, just a little bit, temporary income tax, just a little bit. Here we are at like 40%, right? Every little thing we're going to have to kind of dig our way out. If we're either going to do that or there's going to be a collapse and we get to start over. But I don't foresee the actual political viability of saying, I'm just chopping the system down. I just don't see it happening.
So, I said on Sunday morning, I said, here's the thing. I said, we say we want to fix it all right now. I said, let me be very clear. Do you know how many presidents got us into the mess that we're in? It wasn't one. Let's be very clear. Biden didn't cause all of this.
Yeah.
Okay. Exactly. And so I look at that and I go, so there's no way you're going to go in and fix it just like that. It's not going to happen. So, and you know what? Donald Trump is a pretty solid example of that. I'm going to drain the swamp. And then he got in the swamp and he realized, no, I'm not. No, I'm not.
He got in the swamp. He got in the swamp and realized the water was nice.
He's done a total 180. He's like, the FBI, we're not going to cancel the FBI. We're going to build him a big new shiny
building. Yep.
Yeah. And therein lies the fallacy of the duopoly.
That's right.
And the fact that people will vote R or D just because they don't understand they live in a republic.
Not a democracy. We are a republic governed by law. We are not a democracy. Now, here's the thing. Now, and what's completely gets forgotten. If I remember correctly, Donald Trump said when he was going to drain the swamp, which he didn't. The swamp drained him. He was going to build a wall, and Mexico was going to pay for it. Let's be very clear. He didn't get the wall, clearly. And Mexico's not paying for anything. And if you remember, he ran continuously on lock her up. And if I remember correctly, Hillary Clinton's still roaming around doing whatever the heck she wants to do.
Yeah.
So of those three things right there, you made a big deal. I failed on every one of them.
And so, interestingly, Donald Trump and the phenomenon that he is when talking to, for instance, very diehard Trump supporters is very much like talking to someone like your wife about abolishing the state. Like, they can't accept the fact that this is really bad. Like, they can't accept the fact that this is antithetical to what they really believe. You got to walk them through it. You got to walk them through it. I explained to a gentleman like last week how on paper Donald Trump did more to advance socialism than even FDR did, objectively speaking, dollar wise. And he was like, man, I ain't never thought about it like that, man. I was like, yeah.
And to be fair to Donald Trump, lock her up was a factual statement, because we have a guy here from Arkansas that understands that Whitewater was
dude, you're not gonna lock up a Clinton, man. That's not gonna happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
you've done that for a long time.
You're like, I'll be like, by the way, Hillary, I love you. I think you're doing a great job out there.
Yeah, no matter what.
Really think that airport named after y'all's good.
Disclaimer for the Black Powder Podcast: no guest nor host has any plans of committing suicide.
Nope.
That's right. Yes.
I am quite content in my life. It is not almost over. I'm good, guys. I am healthy. If you heard anything, what me?
But yeah,
all right, what me?
But yeah, you're right. You have to walk these people to it. And I'm glad to hear you say this, and I hope we get to hear more chairs say this, because in my personal opinion, this is just my opinion, we are bifurcated between people who are so philosophically bound they're of no earthly good, and people who want to do good, but these people are getting in their way. That's how I see it. I get on Twitter and I'll put something up there, and then I'll have people who should be supporters of our movement go, voting it doesn't do anything. You shouldn't do it. Voting backs up the system. You shouldn't be running for all. Well, if I stay silent, somebody else is going to do it. Yeah,
that's partially true though, because if you vote for the duopoly, you're not doing I almost cussing, and
they don't understand. If you don't vote at all, you're also voting by default.
You're voting by default for the duopoly.
With what everybody else says. That's right.
If you're a libertarian and you choose not to vote, you're giving people that aren't a libertarian yet their vote actually carries more weight.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
So by you voting, you actually dilute their power, if that makes sense.
I think a lot of libertarians are overall they're just content. They want to say a lot and make big statements and pretend like they're going to do all of these things, but ultimately they're doing nothing.
So tell me a question. Hold on, I don't mean to interrupt you, but do you think that we're going through a change in the party? You talked about the fact that attendance wasn't as big as it usually was at conventions. I've heard this from every convention thus far has been this way. Here's my thing. I think that those people are getting out, and I think what we're being left with is a serious people who really want to advance liberty. That's what I personally think is going on. What do you think?
Factual. That's a fact. But people like Tub need to use that energy to affect change and get to those people.
I mean, I've had people that have told me before, like, like I said, we started this conversation off with people who don't know what a libertarian is. Libertarians use as a pejorative often. I mean, especially on social media. Oh, look, you're a libertarian. They don't know what it is. And so like people are even afraid to come because they're like, they're like Republicans who smoke weed. They're Democrats who like guns. They want your kid on crystal meth. Like, all these
I don't
things
disagree with any of that.
Kind of like what they did with you.
I don't want your kid on crystal
when
meth.
you ran for city council, right? The Republican Party of Duval County put out a hit piece on Eric Parker. It was like, apparently you were for open borders, like all kinds of stuff.
He was a polygamist. He was a polygamist.
Yeah, they put that on there too.
A polygamist.
Yeah.
I believe that. I believe he has multiple wives and children that he does not.
Hold on. I know Eric. I know his wife. He is very blessed and lucky to have the one that he has. He better not put his luck with another one.
Hey, I will say this: from the polygamist point of view, the more kids you have, the better your tax situation. So you need to.
Hold on. What kind of fool wants more than one wife?
Yeah, I got.
Yeah, dude, you want another one? Not me.
No. Yeah. Like I'm making a bunch. I'm making a bunch of. Go ahead.
If you want to look at it as having multiple wives is a bad thing, I think we need to take a step back and look at who you are because having multiple wives is dependence, it's children, it's all of that lessens your tax burden.
Yeah,
and
but
aren't libertarians
hear me out.
about lessening your tax burden?
No.
All
So
right,
Marcus, here, I'm
Marcus,
going to interject with
I'm
this
gonna
one.
have some pushback here.
That's
That's the
definitely
biggest,
one that
hold
is.
on, hold
That's
on.
one that's
The biggest,
not a good one. Okay, that's not a
the
good
biggest
messaging.
thing, hold on.
Okay,
This is
whatever.
what we're talking about, Marcus.
We don't. We can agree to disagree.
Listen,
Hold on. The biggest debate of the night is polygamy. I want you to understand that. The biggest debate, everyone's like, well, hold on.
I'm looking at it from a tax perspective, from the libertarian.
I'll stay broke. I'll stay broke, man.
Pretty
Listen,
sure.
hold on. If you have another woman and more kids, you gonna stay broke anyway. It's just a matter of where you're losing it to. That's all it is. Oh my goodness.
Kenneth Blevins has commented, and this is so true. When the media uses the word libertarian, they always have to misrepresent what it means. It's as if that is the only way they can get away with using the word. 100%. 100%. They're never going to actually have a real discussion about natural rights, about the non-aggression principle. They're not going to talk about that. They're going to say something like, look, this guy took all of his clothes off because libertarians dance naked on stages. That's in their book, right?
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I did not at all. In fact, I'm still pissed about it to this day. I think it was.
Yeah, people still talk about it. People still bring that up.
That's right.
Wasn't that in Florida?
Where was it?
No, it wasn't.
It was in Florida, wasn't it?
You know what? Okay.
Yeah. So
No,
I mean,
hey,
if it's Florida, that's just normal activities.
That's just us. That's the world.
That's not what you can't go one way or another. That's a Florida man.
Like, yeah, that doesn't even make you a libertarian. It just makes you Floridian. Like, hey. So, okay, so here, if I could real quick, I want to add something to that as a plug for somebody who has no idea who I am, obviously. So there's a gentleman, he has the noon to 3 spot on Sirius XM, okay? His name is Andrew Wilkow.
Yeah.
All right. I listen, he's the only reason I have Sirius XM. Here's why. Not a single day goes by that he doesn't mention libertarians in a good, positive way. Every day, at some point in time, he's going to go listen. He goes, and the other day, he's talking about something. He goes, if that's the case, he goes, listen, I'm straight up a libertarian. And I'm like, yes. And so I'm like, okay, we need more of that. Even though he'll tell you he's a Republican. But when you're able to start presenting libertarian and not just as the bad term, as a, hey, you know what, these guys over here, and he stresses the personal freedom stuff along those lines. I'm like, yes. Like we need more people. It's a shame that one of our biggest messengers is outside the party, but we need more people in our party to focus on the basics of it. Like I had mentioned, I said there's this idea of what people think libertarian is versus the truth of what it is. And I said it's usually in some form of meme. Like you'll see this meme about libertarians or this, and in reality, it's just some old guy fighting with city council about why he can't put a shed in his backyard.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is, I think that's what we have to be more effective in getting that word out. It's not this big, huge everything else. Like I mentioned the other day, so I ran for city council. I ran for lieutenant governor. Not once did I mention in the Fed. Yeah. Now, am I sitting here saying the Fed is good? No, absolutely not. We all get that. But at the same time, we have to understand that everybody outside the party doesn't think the way that we think. Yep. So we have to be able to present our ideas, especially personal freedom and stuff. We have to be able to present that in a way that they go, hey, you know what? That's not bad.
Yeah.
I'm fighting for a shed.
I think that you explaining this, like I said, and being a pastor is really apropos at the moment. This idea that you're evangelizing for liberty, that you're looking to convert souls to the libertarian movement, and you have to be a good messenger. You have to bring the good news, right? You're bringing the gospel of liberty. So you have to be educated in it. You need to be well-versed in it, and you need to be a good messenger. Like you said you have high standards for Christians. The reason you probably do is because you know that everybody that says, I'm a Christian, instantly becomes the face of Christianity, whether or not they are or not, right? And we already have too many bad ones, hypocritical ones, getting caught up in this, and so you have high standards for them. I'm the same way with libertarians. I have high standards for libertarians, actually. It's not their personal choices. It's on how they message and what they wish to present about libertarian thought. I have high standards for them because we don't need more boots on heads. We don't need more people dancing naked on stages. We don't need that. We need people who can sell liberty effectively, efficiently, and directly to people like your wife who've never heard about it, who can leave a convention and go, you know what? I like that guy. That's what we need. We do that a couple million times. We're getting somewhere.
Okay.
And you know what's fun? Yes, sir.
What about pants only?
Hold on.
In Florida.
Pants only on or pants only off? Wait a minute. What are you saying?
I'm just
Because it
saying,
matters.
we need to make sure we have a message that resonates with everybody. And there's some people, mind you, the naked guy, he was completely out of shape. I think he was a ginger. No, shout out to all the gingers out there, but I'm pretty sure he was a ginger.
I mean,
and, that's 2 strikes.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. You kind of gotten there. Yeah.
Now you're naked.
Yeah, and then you get naked. Yeah, that's a no-win situation.
If that was his first strike, we might have let it fly.
So Tub, let me tell you a story from when I was on the campaign trail, and you'll probably identify with this. Okay, I got invited as a candidate to speak at a event it's called BOMA. It's Builders something. It's a bunch of rich real estate people, well connected in business throughout the state. People who deal with the Waltons. This is these are very serious people. And they invited me to this event, and they put me way back in the back corner. Just me and my wife by ourselves in the back corner because they felt like they probably had to invite me because they invited the congressman and they invited the Democrat candidate, but they thought I was going to be a joke. Okay? They thought I was going to be a joke, and they were hoping that, we're going to have the real serious people, and then we're going to bring the jester out. And he's going to embarrass himself, and we'll all laugh and go, look at that stupid libertarian, ha, ha, ha. And then we'll go back to, that's why I'm voting for Congressman Hill, or that's why I'm voting for her. And, dude, I killed it. I absolutely killed it. And then at the end of the event, the congressman's walking out. Nobody's talking to him. People are lined up to talk to me. That's what you got to be doing out there. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I'm saying we have to win those opportunities. We have to win those. We can't blow them. We fight so hard just to get there. We can't put up people who are just gonna botch it. I mean, we just can't do it anymore. And I know I'm beating a dead horse about it, but God bless, we need good messengers. You nailed it when you started talking. Yeah.
I have to remind everybody all the time that we're a political party.
That's right. Yeah.
First and foremost, we are a political party. And so inside of that, we should be looking to get people elected that we can effectively make change. Yep. And I think that too often we lose focus of that we are a political party. Our main purpose ought to be to run candidates. And we get so busy with everything else that we forget about, hey, wait a minute, we're not really fulfilling our role inside of this. And so what happens then, we don't get it. Just here's what I'm going to tell you. So here in town, Eric will tell you, we got invited once we became candidates. And I tell everybody, there's the importance of being a candidate, because a candidate, you get invited. As just some schlub who is a libertarian, you're getting nowhere. Shut up, nobody's talking to you anyway. But once they feel like, okay, well, you're a candidate, come on into our forum. And we got invited, everyone everywhere, but we got invited to a number of forums and stuff along those lines because we were candidates. And then here's what happened. Just what you just said. Well, okay, yeah, libertarian. Now, here's the thing. Did we win them all over? No. But did they come up to us after and start going, hey, can you explain this a little bit better? Yes, I can. Mm-hmm. And that made the difference. Now, here's the thing. If we got up there as the fat ginger who took our shirt off and started dancing around, we made zero, nothing good comes out of that, okay? But when you can present a good messenger with intent, here's our role. How are we going to advance this forward? And I think that we have to understand, once again, small victories, and let's be intentional about what we're trying to accomplish.
Yes.
Let's know that, and I think that if we can do that, we can accomplish things slowly. I have no false aspirations of that we're going to take over the whole country. It's absurd. It's not going to happen. But imagine if we could start saying, hey, wait a minute, we got X amount of people finally got on balance. In some states, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Okay. Some other ones became good vibe. And Eric and Tracy and I, when we were going, we said this every time we went somewhere. We don't want just libertarian candidates. We want viable libertarian candidates.
Yes, electable libertarian candidates.
Because it's not the same. Yes,
so, one of my favorite Americans, despite his flaws and owning other people, was Benjamin Franklin.
Okay.
And mainly because he was a player. Benjamin Franklin loved the ladies, and I salute him for that. I want to take a moment to shout out Benjamin Franklin for being original founding pimp.
Okay.
There's a reason why he's on them hundreds.
That's right.
He's on the 100.
That's right. He's on the 100. Yeah, there you go.
But he said you need to make people be able to laugh in order to draw them in.
Yes.
And that's why I think a person like Vermin Supreme has the following that he has, because he needs people. Well, he makes people laugh. And I understand how people will take that as just clownish behavior. Obviously, that's what they're going to do. But we need to, going to the point about 2024, we need to have people with the personality to draw people in. And we need to be able to present ourselves in a manner to which we are taken seriously, but we understand that the politics of this nation is about a lot of BS at the same time.
And we don't want to make people go, you know what? I feel good I'm a Republican. We want people to go, that guy made me realize I don't think I am one. That's what we're supposed to be doing.
May I interject? And really, I was going to go off what Marcus said, but Michael just made a great point. Today at work, an older guy that's like been my trading coordinator, I got a new job, so I'm being trained. He asked me, and he does, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Or what did you do over the weekend?
Yeah.
And he asked me, hey, did y'all get into anything fun over the weekend? I said, we actually went back to Florida. And like, I almost felt embarrassed to say for a libertarian event, because either I didn't want to have to explain it, or I didn't want to have to explain it as in like, it's going to take too much time. But all he said was libertarian, huh? Isn't that like Ron Paul? And I think Ron Paul was a good example, but he wasn't known for what he did in the Libertarian Party. He was known for what he did in the Republican Party. And I explained that. I mean, you know, we know he ran as a presidential candidate as a libertarian back in the 80s. But like I feel like we don't have a standard bearer that we can point to that's won anything. Like inside the circles, I tell people, go watch a Michael White debate, or I tell them, look up a Ron Paul quote, but all his stuff was when he was a Republican. Like, when are we going to get that? And I mentioned other guys like Thomas Massey, well, Republican. Justin Amash was a libertarian.
Speaking of, real quick, I'm going to interject. Justin Amash, August 22nd, 2023, he tweets, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The Libertarian Party should focus on organizing libertarians to win elections. Libertarian activists should focus on ideals. When the party prioritizes activism or activists prioritize political expediency, we reduce our effectiveness.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's, fine, go ahead. Just because you're on here all the time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Marcus also mentioned Vermin Supreme. What he just did in New Hampshire running as a Democrat, great. Do that. All right.
Now, here's the thing. So real quick about Marcus, like what you were saying, I'm sitting here and I wrote it down. He's like, hey, get him to laugh and stuff along those lines. I go, okay, hang on. So what we're talking about, Carrot Top made people laugh.
Right.
George Carlin made people laugh and think.
That's exactly it. There you go. Yeah. There you go. Yes.
And I go, I don't want to be Carrot Top. We have a lot of Carrot Tops. I want to be George Carlin.
That's right. Yeah.
I'll be George Carlin.
One of the greatest Americans that ever lived was George Carlin, and I will say that to my dying day. Man, I could bring him back.
Do you know, like, you ever go, like, listen to his stuff now, like, you hear something, and you're like, yes! Like,
dude,
like
it's amazing.
If I could take out some of those words, if I took out the F word, I'd be like, he's legit. Like, it lays all that same stuff down. And I go, and what Eric is saying is exactly true. It's exactly true that we don't have that voice, that one person. Now, we can all sit around and go, well, I like this one, or I like that one, or whatever. And I go, okay, that's great. And many of us might even like point to like Spike Cohen. Okay, I'm a Spike guy. I like Spike, obviously. Okay, and so, but I look at it, I go, but you understand? Here's the reality of it. Get outside the party, and people don't know us. People like you can take somebody who's crushing it inside of our party.
That's right.
But you go outside, and people go, I don't know who that is.
Yep.
And like I've said that about Spike. I'll be somewhere I'm like, well, you know, Spike Cohen. And they go, and they'll look at me. I go, he was our vice presidential nominee past 2 times. Nothing. And I go, okay, so because here's our problem. Libertarians are quite content with rallying the base. We want to get all of our own continually excited, which is pointless because they're all going to turn on you at some point anyway. So if we spend all of our time focusing on making sure libertarians like this, once again, shut it down. We're not going anywhere. So
Damn.
we have to engage others. We have to get these other people in. We have to let them start seeing, hey, wait a minute, there's some hope inside of this party that I didn't know of before.
Yeah.
And once again, that's candidates. I'm gonna say forever. That's candidates to start out with. And then the reason why, like, and what you started saying there, Michael, was we had a conversation here with You Are the Power.
Yeah.
Because here's what happens. Many times we're allowing the activists to be the forefront of things.
Mhm.
And I believe candidates should be the forefront of things. So here's what here's what we have to be able to do. Activists definitely have a role inside of our party because they do a lot of the work, honestly. And so what we need to find a way is that we can start organizing the activists to support the candidates.
Yes.
So it's not like we're fighting each other.
Yes.
So that we can, because here's what happens. The activists love to go and march and protest and speak at city council and do all of those things. Good. Now imagine if you're doing that in a policy or an idea that a candidate has. So imagine now you're getting all these activists together, and instead of just running around aimlessly yelling and fussing at everything, you go, hey, I need 6 of you to go speak at city council on this topic that I'm in support of as a candidate.
Right.
Go in there and start draw some attention to it. Now, the beauty of that is I don't have to get involved in the mess as a candidate. I just sit back and go, man, they're making a mistake. And I get to speak, staying on point, staying on my task as a candidate.
Well,
when we were running...
to set the activist up for success with this, you mentioned something that happens a lot is people come into the Libertarian Party, they'll run for office one time, and then they will disappear. The truth is, like you said, we're 45 years behind. We got a lot of work. I knew when I ran the first time that it was just the first time. Like that was it. All I could do was just run, and then people would know me, and then I could run again. And we need people that are thinking that way. We need candidates. I hate to say career politicians. I don't like that term, but we kind of need some in the party. We need people who are willing to do the work every election season, stay on message, stay on point, so the activists can say they have trust and faith in this person. They can say, hey, Tub down in Jacksonville, my friend Tub Rorabaugh down in Jacksonville, he has a policy that does this, 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 and this. And he knows that next year you're going to be there, as opposed to just throwing your name out and then all of a sudden you disappear and nobody knows who the heck you are. Yeah.
Or move to North Carolina.
Yeah, move to North Carolina, like Eric Parker did. Yeah, like Eric Parker did.
I want to say this as we're coming up on an hour, and being the only real libertarian in this podcast, as well as in the nation, myself.
I thought you were giving me a shout out right there. A little shout out. Okay, tell him. The real one.
The only real one.
Excuse my French, but hell no, I'm the only real libertarian that I want to say it's high time that we consolidate our message around what Tub just said and get those local activists behind our candidates, 2, 3, 4 at a time, whatever it takes. This is what the Libertarian Party needs to do. And I spoke to this on our year-end special, because I think Black people have no home in the Republican or Democrat Party, because both of them are wholly and absolutely responsible for the state that a lot of Black people are in right now with their social engineering policies.
Yep.
That the Libertarian Party is the only home for the Black man. And the Libertarian Party is the only home for the white man. And the Libertarian Party is the only home for every man. And I am so happy we had Tub on this episode, because he spoke to all of those facts in his way tonight. And I want to thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, this has been an excellent conversation to talk about this in this light. I mean, I have thoroughly enjoyed it. But Eric, I think you wanted to touch on the sermon that he had on Sunday, right?
So his sermon on Sunday at the Libertarian Party convention was about Jesus and liberty. Tub, if you want to hit
man,
real quick. I don't know.
Take as much time as you want. I mean, we're good here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or is there going to be a video of it? People can go find it somewhere. What's your social media, website, all that?
So this is my outro. Is that what you're telling me right now?
Well,
No, I
I'm
mean,
doing
like,
my outro.
it sounds like it was really good. And
Yeah, you can speak to it as long as you need to, bro.
yeah, what was the
Yeah.
kind of
Okay.
message? How did it kind of work? Yeah.
So I'll focus on the takeaway points of it because what I try to do is you always want to send people into action. You always want to kind of give them something. Hey, now go do something. And so inside of there, I had 5 points. I said, hey, if we start doing these things, we'll have become far more effective. And what my point was to say, hey, there's the church and libertarianism actually has a lot in common, whether we want to admit it or not. Now, here's the thing, real quick. So this was the first time that the state of Florida at their convention has ever done anything like a service, like any type of church service or anything along those lines. So I took full advantage of it, in all honesty. And now also, I guess the way it is, I'm actually going to be preaching Sunday morning at the national convention also.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
So
Nice.
I'm going to take full advantage of it. Now, here are my main points of. I'll try to bring it all down as fast as I can. The first thing I said that for libertarians, also for the church, but know your audience. Like, know who you're speaking to, because the audience will determine who and how you speak. Like, that's just the reality of things. Libertarians fail at this one. They will go up there and say they'll go up there and just say all of these things, regardless of who's sitting in front of them.
Yep.
And I think that you have to, like, I tell people all the time that anytime I go to speak somewhere, I always have something different to say. I'm not always just going to go. Now, Michael, when you run, Eric, you have your quick spiel. This is who I am. It's my 2 minutes. This is where I'm at. But if you give me time to speak, I'm bringing up something different every time.
Yep.
Because I'm like, okay, because here's the thing is, those people are different every time. And I think that we have to be smart enough to go, okay, who am I with this time? Let's be honest with you, like when Eric and I, when we were running locally, if we went to a forum that was by the Democrat Party, well, we're going to focus on our social issues.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to stand up there and be like, hey, and they're like, yeah, dang right, and we'll get them. You start talking about policing issues, stuff along those lines, they're on board with us. Okay, good. Now, here's the thing. When we go speak to the Republicans, we're going to speak more of our financial and economical issues. We're going to be like, hey, wait a minute. And then they're on board for that. Now, the thing is, we stay true to who we are. We never lied. We never strayed. We just said, this is who these people are. This is who these people are. If we're going to win them over, find out where they're at.
Messaging.
So know your audience. Know your audience. Then the second thing I had on there was make a connection with people. And here's what I'm saying. Have the conversation. Sometimes libertarians want to, and Christians, we just want to blah and throw all this stuff at you. And just shut up and listen to me. And that's all. I want to say my rant because I'm angry about everything. And I look at that, I go, but hang on. If you have a conversation with people, you might find out where they're at. And then once you find out where they're at, you make a connection with them. And it could be, find the thing you have in common. And what was it? Was it Ronald Reagan who said somebody was it 80% my friend is not 20% my enemy? And you're like, yes, like just because you might be different than me, we might have some things we can connect on. Yeah. And I think as libertarians, for us to be effective, we better start finding those. Because once again, not everybody cares about what we care about yet. Like they might get there. So the third thing I said was make your point. What are you trying to relay to people? Because I mentioned, I said the first time that I preached inside a big church, it was long before I started a church, and I was going up there and I'm preaching to about 500 people, and I thought I had to relay everything that I knew about Jesus in that hour. and I just overloaded and people didn't know what to walk away with.
Is this when you were like a junior pastor or something? Like,
yeah, okay, so yeah, actually I was on staff. And the pastor's like, hey, you want to preach on Sunday? I'm like, yeah, that would be great.
I'll do it.
And then he came up to me about 2 weeks later. He goes, hey, you ready? And I looked at him and I go, for what? He goes, well, you're going to preach here in 2 weeks. I'm like, oh, crap, you meant that? Yeah, okay. And so, and I got there and I spewed out everything I could think of. But now that I've kind of been doing this for a while, I go, you know what it is? Why don't I find what my point is? Mm-hmm. Find your point, drive it home. Mm-hmm. So that when they walk away, they go, oh. So I don't hit them with libertarians don't have to hit them with everything all the time. Find our core things. Once again, know who your audience is and get that point across to them. Then I got into, what I refer to as my fourth thing, which could have been the first thing, was ego. Check your ego. Because libertarians always want to prove how smart they are. Oh, look at all the stuff that I know. A lot of times you know stuff that nobody cares about.
Dude, that's so true. 100. So true. Yeah.
I'm a grown man who's functioned in life for almost 50 years now. Okay. And I've done all of this time functioning as an adult in society. And you're having a conversation with me and stuff. I go, I've gone all this time and I've been perfectly fine without that knowledge.
Yeah.
And yet you're telling me like this should be the point of everything I should be focusing my life on right now. And so I go, check your ego a little bit. Just breathe. You don't have to be the smartest man all the time. Be willing. The crazy idea I have found when I go, I don't know.
Dude,
That
yeah.
speaks tons. Like when we were speaking one time here in town, here's what happened. I got out now up the street from us. There's an area. There's a little shop where all the old black guys hang out at.
Yeah.
And so I would drive past there every day as I'm running for city council. And I'm like, one day I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna pull in and I'm gonna talk to those people. Now, I'm gonna do this in honor of my son because Marcus, my youngest son, looks way more like you than me. Okay. Now, so I pulled out to the shop one day. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go talk to him. I'm gonna pull out. I'm gonna talk to him. So I get out, and of course they see me pull up in my truck. The white guy dressed the way I did. Like first thing they thought was cop. Like that's the reality. I'm like, oh, this dude's a cop. They didn't want to say that. They didn't want to talk to me at all. They actually felt better when I said candidate. Okay, and that tells you something.
Okay, all right, good.
Yeah, like all right, never mind. He's not so bad. So here's what happened, and I walked up to them, and in my mind, I knew what they were going to complain about. I knew what they were going to complain about. I knew they were going to talk about what's happening in their area with crime, and they're going to talk about policing issues. I knew it, and you know what? I was very much wrong.
Yeah.
I couldn't have been more wrong. What they were worried about was flooding and drainage in the area. I would have never come up with that one. And so here's what happened. We spoke at a forum, and I mentioned that we were talking to a bunch of black Democrats. The room was full of black Democrats. And I'm like, okay. And I said to us, here's where I was wrong. Like I was wrong. I handled this wrong. I didn't get it right. And that spoke to people. Because I said through the whole process and said, listen, I will not have all the answers, but I'm willing to have all the conversations.
Nice.
And that changes things. When you say, I'm not going to, because we are guilty of, let me come tell you what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And you have no idea what's wrong. Why don't you let them talk and they'll tell you what's wrong? And then you can start addressing the things that they're struggling with. Mm-hmm. So what you have to do is you have to check your ego. You got to be willing to say, I don't have all the answers. Enlighten me. Tell me something. Coach me on this one. Tell me where I'm missing. Tell me what we can work on. Let's have the talk a little bit. And then the last thing I talked about aside of that was the small victories. Good Lord, if we would learn to accept a small victory. Like, okay, so did they end up in office like with Chase? When Chase ran and he caused the stink inside of Georgia, did he end up in office? No. Did he lose? No.
That's right.
He still had a victory there. He's done far more than most any of us have.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's a victory still. And libertarians have to learn that. Libertarians have to learn that, yes, do I want to get to the end goal? Of course I do. Yes, I want to get there. But can we learn to take these steps? Can we learn that if I went into a forum of 60 people and I won 8 of them over, that's a win. Mm-hmm. That's a win. Just because the whole room didn't turn in favor for me, but 8 of them did, 8 was more than I had when I walked into there.
Yeah.
And as libertarians and as Christians, we have to learn that. We have to learn to take the small victories. But if we keep comparing everything to the end, how we want things at the end, we're going to do nothing but lose. Yeah. And then here's what ends up happening. You end up very discouraged. Mm-hmm. You end up very much to the point of, I just lost. They just lost. And when they keep saying libertarians just keep losing, for now, but did we gain? And to me, so long as the party, we keep gaining, we're doing fine. We're doing fine. Listen, should we be past this 40 years later? Yes. But you know what? This is where we are. So we're going to have to deal with the reality that we're in. And in that, let's address where we are and start getting us to where we want to be.
I love it.
So I'm just going to...
I love it. You need to post all 5 of those like on a thing. I'm going to share that.
Yeah, I'm already marked from the 101 mark to right now we're at the 113 mark. Yeah. And my closing statements in this, I just want to say the small victories. Tub is down with the swirl because his youngest son looks like.
Oh, God, yeah, he does very much so.
And liberty in Christ are the messages I took from this podcast tonight. So that's just mine
Yeah, Tub, this has been very refreshing to have you
Yeah.
join. And this message, it was I have been kind of on this kick mentally for the past month as we're gearing up toward our election season. Is this is the splinter in my side, really, is the ineffectiveness, the amorphous nature of the Libertarian Party today. So I thank you for saying the things you said today. It lets me at least know that I'm not crazy. And there's at least
we're just crazy together.
There's one other person that thinks the way that I am, and so therefore we're crazy together. That's right. I'm not just crazy alone. Thank you,
Eric.
Tub. Sorry, I left.
You suck, dude.
Hey, y'all right here. Hey, we got FaceTime and everything. Okay, so with that, I think we're going to wrap the show up. Obviously. Again, Tub, thanks so much for coming. Can we do this again soon sometime? Can you come back on here and talk about this? I would love to expand on this conversation again about, I really think there's something deeper to dig into here about this, pastoring and selling liberty. There's a lot in common there, and I'd love to talk about that more. But we only have so much time. And so again, thank you for spending your time with us here at the Black Powder Podcast on the Firearms Radio Network. We appreciate you tuning into the Firearms Radio Network. We didn't talk about a lot of guns today. We talked about liberty. And you know what? Not the safe company, but the thing that's important to you. And we defend that with the 2A, obviously. And so, yes, we kind of talked about guns in a roundabout fashion. Our guest today has been Tub Rorabaugh. Tub, where can people find you if they're looking for you?
So I'm now on Twitter at Tub Rorabaugh, and I'm actually, if you find me easiest, you can do Tub Rorabaugh on Facebook, or Tub for Jacks is still active.
Okay, there you go. Tub for Jack. Just put him in there. You'll find him. He's on all the things on the Facebook and the X's. And again, we're sponsored by 1776swag.com. Feel free to visit them. And Common Arms Trade Company. Use promo code Black Powder for 10% off any purchase over $100. Marcus, would you like to take us off the air with your favorite thing to say?
As always, with my brothers in liberty, Michael White and Eric Parker, and our guest, Tub, I want to tell you, live free
or die.
Or die.
And now the world's longest click. Let's see how long